Very important topic of biology, the cell. The cells are the basic structural and the functional unit of life. All the organisms on the earth, whether ranging from the smallest bacteria to the largest plant and animals, all are composed of cells. Without the cells, the life ceases to exist on the earth. Now, what is actually a cell? From where the word cell is derived from? The word cell is derived from the Latin word cellula, and it means the little compartments, which means the little compartments which are present inside a body or of which our body is made are called as cells. These cells are the structural and the functional unit of life. Now, how these cells were discovered? Actually, there is a very interesting story behind this. What happened? In 1665, an English scientist named as Robert Hooke, he was observing a cork under his primitive microscope, which was constructed by him only, and he observed some honeycomb-like structures. And these honeycomb-like structures or compartments, he called them as cells. So the cells were first discovered in 1665 by Robert Hooke, who was an English scientist. Later on, what happened in 1674, a Dutch microscopist called as Anton Von Leeuwenhoek, he made an improved microscope, and with the help of this improved microscope, he observed some free living cells in pond water. Later on, in 1678, he discovered the sperm cells. Now, we will be dealing what is the shape of the cell. How does a cell look like? Actually, the cells have different shapes. It may be flattened, it may be cuboidal, it may be columnar, spherical, ovoid, rounded, star-shaped and cigar-shaped, etc. Which means a cell may have different shapes, and the shape of the cell usually depends on two factors. First is the external pressure. External pressure means the pressure which is exerted on the cell from the outside, and the internal pressure, the pressure which is exerted by the cell from the inside of the cell. So first is the external and the internal pressure, and the other is the function of the cell. So these two factors greatly determine the shape of the cell. Second is the size of the cell. So some cells may be so small that they cannot be seen with the naked eye. They require a microscope to be seen. However, some cells are large enough to be seen with the naked eyes. Okay, so the average size of the cell, it is actually 5 to 20 μm. However, the smallest cell is of 0.1 μm only, and it is of mycoplasma. These mycoplasmas are also called as PPLO, which means PLEURO-pneumonia-like organisms. Okay, these PLEURO-pneumonia-like organisms are the smallest cell known. However, the cells may be as large as the egg of an ostrich, which is about 15 cm in diameter. However, the cells which are present in the neurons or the neuron cell, these are actually 1 meter in length. Now, we will be dealing that how many cells are present in an organism. We will see that are the numbers of cells fixed in an organism? Actually, the number of cells is usually not fixed in an organism. But however, in rotifers and the nematodes, they have a fixed number of cells. They have a genetically fixed number of cells, and this property of having a genetically fixed number of cells is called as EUTELY. We have studied that what do we mean by cell, what is the size of the cell, what is the shape of the cell, and are the number of cells fixed. But later on in the years after discovery of cell, later on many discoveries were made. For example, in 1665 we know that the cells were discovered by an English scientist known as the Robert Hooke. In the later years, in 1674, Anton Von Leeuwenhoek, with the help of an improved microscope, he discovered the living cells in a pond water. In 1678, Anton Von Leeuwenhoek, he discovered the sperm cells. But in the later years, in 1831, a Scottish botanist called as the Robert Brown, he discovered the nucleus. After the discovery of the nucleus in 1839, J.E. Purkinje, who was a Czech animal physiologist, he discovered or named the living fluid inside the cell as the protoplasm. After this establishing the fact, in 1866, Hooke, he established the fact that the nucleus was responsible for the transmission of hereditary characters. So these are the discoveries which were made later in that period. Later on, a theory was established called as the cell theory. Some major breakthrough discoveries in the structure of the cell. What happened in 1838? A German botanist called as M.J. Schleiden, and in 1839 a German zoologist called as Theodor Schwann, they, after studying the cells independently, put forward a theory called as the cell theory. This cell theory has two important points initially. What are those? First, that all the organisms are made up of cell and cell secretions, which means the cells are the structural unit of life. Second point, that all the metabolic reactions takes place in cells, which means the cells are the functional unit of life. Together, both of these points constitute the cells are structural and functional unit of life. Later on, a third point was added in the cell theory, which was given by Rudolf Virchow. He stated that no cells can arise spontaneously or de novo or anew, which means all the cells, they arise from pre-existing cells only. No cells can arise spontaneously or anew. Okay, and this cell theory and this theory was called as omnis cellulae a cellula. And the last point of the cell theory was that every organism, it starts its life as a single cell. So this was all about in the introduction of the cell. I hope this lecture was useful to you. For more, keep watching. Till then, have a nice day, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.